Can a $4 gutter insert really end gutter cleaning? A $4 insert that ends gutter cleaning forever sounds like the perfect homeowner hack. And honestly, it sounds so good that most people want it to be true before they even ask whether it is. Because gutter cleaning is one of those chores almost nobody enjoys. It's dirty, repetitive, awkward, and usually involves a ladder, which already makes it more annoying than it needs to be. So when somebody says there's a cheap little insert that can permanently solve the problem, that idea spreads fast. But here's the problem. The evidence does not support that promise. These cheap inserts can help. In some houses, they can help a lot. But help and end gutter cleaning permanently are two very different things. And once you separate those two ideas, this whole topic gets way more interesting. Because the truth here is not that these products are useless, it's that they're usually oversold. And that matters, because if you buy one expecting a miracle, you're probably setting yourself up for disappointment. But if you understand what it actually does and where it actually works, then a cheap insert can still be a smart buy. So in this video, I want to break down three things. First, is gutter cleaning really some massive $6 billion industry? Second, what do these cheap inserts actually do? And third, why do so many maintenance-free gutter promises fall apart in the real world? Because once you get past the ad copy, the real answer is much more useful than the clickbait. Now before we even get into the insert, let's talk about that first claim. The $6 billion industry line sounds huge. It sounds specific, and it sounds like there's this giant national machine built entirely around people scooping wet leaves out of gutters. But when you actually look for the number, it gets shaky fast. The public market data I found for U.S. gutter services is much smaller than that. Meanwhile, the $6-point-something billion figure shows up in reports about the broader rain gutter market. And that is a totally different category. That bigger market includes gutter products, systems, installation demand, and broader related business activity. It is not the same as saying gutter cleaning by itself is a $6 billion U.S. industry, so right away you can see what probably happened. A big number from the broader gutter market gets borrowed, then used to make gutter cleaning sound like this giant standalone business that's just waiting to be destroyed by a $4 miracle insert. And to be fair, gutter-related products and services are absolutely a real business. Homes need gutters for a reason. They are not just decorative trim hanging off the roof. They are part of the water management system of the house. That's the part people forget. Gutters are boring right up until they fail. And when they fail, they stop being boring very quickly. Because your roof sheds a lot more water than most people realize. During a good rain, that is a huge volume of runoff coming off the roof edge. If that water is not directed away properly, it can dump right next to the house, saturate soil around the foundation, and contribute to moisture problems, rot, and all the slow, expensive damage that homeowners usually do not notice until it becomes a headache. So yes, the need is real. The stakes are real. But the gutter cleaning is a $6 billion industry line looks a lot more like category mixing than a clean fact. And that matters because once the first claim starts stretching reality, you should immediately get more skeptical about the second claim, because that second claim is the one people really care about. What does the cheap insert actually do? And this is where the conversation usually gets dumb really fast. One side says it's a total scam. The other side says install it once and you'll never touch your gutters again. And the real answer is sitting right in the middle. What these inserts are actually trying to do is simple. They are not trying to make your gutter magical. They are trying to make it harder to clog. That's it. The basic idea is that large debris gets blocked while water still has a path into the gutter. Depending on the design, that might be foam, mesh, bristles, or some shaped surface that tries to let water in while keeping larger debris out. Different products do it differently, but the promise is basically the same. Keep the gutter channel open longer, and that part is real. That is the key thing to understand. A cheap insert does not turn your gutter into a self-cleaning machine. It changes where debris goes, and it changes how fast buildup happens. Without any guard or insert, debris falls directly into the gutter trough. It gets wet, starts packing down, turns into muck, and eventually blocks water flow, especially near the downspout. Once that happens, the gutter stops acting like drainage and starts acting like a long, overflowing planter box bolted to your house. With an insert, the goal is to keep that trough from filling so quickly. Instead of debris dropping deep into the channel, more of it stays on top, dries out, blows off, or at least becomes easier to deal with later. So in the best case, the insert does not eliminate maintenance. It makes maintenance lighter, less disgusting, less frequent. That is a very different promise. Because I clean my gutters less now is believable. I never think about my gutters again is where the marketing starts drifting away from reality. And honestly, this is where a lot of homeowners get tricked. Not because the product is fake, but because the expectation is fake. If you buy one of these things expecting to erase maintenance from your life, you will probably be disappointed. If you buy it expecting to reduce how much junk packs into the gutter, reduce the number of full cleanouts, and maybe reduce the number of ladder trips, then now you are talking about something much more realistic. That is the honest use case. And that still has value, because the reason people hate gutter cleaning is not just that it is dirty, it is that it is repetitive, annoying, and often risky. Ladders are not nothing. A task does not have to be dramatic to be dangerous. Climbing up to deal with wet debris along a roof edge is exactly the kind of thing people would love to do less often. So a product that cuts that chore down can absolutely be useful. But usefulness is not the same thing as permanence. A cheap insert is really more like a friction reducer. It reduces the speed at which your gutter system turns into a problem. And that distinction matters because a lot of homeowners hear guard and mentally translate it into solved. But what they're actually buying is often delay. Delay before the next clog. Delay before the next nasty cleanout. Delay before the next ladder trip. And that can be worth it. It just is not the same as being done forever. Another thing ads almost never tell you is that not all gutter mess behaves the same way. Big dry leaves are one thing, pine needles are another, roof grit is another. Seed pods, blossoms, moss, shingle granules, wet sludge, and all the weird junk that ends up on roofs all behave differently. So when somebody does a perfect little demo with clean dry leaves landing on a brand new insert and harmlessly sliding away, that might be true in that exact moment, with that exact debris, in that exact setup. That does not automatically mean it performs the same way on your roof after months of weather, with your trees in your climate. That is why the real question is never just, does it work? The real question is, works for what? Works under heavy tree cover? Works with fine debris? Works in intense rain? Works after one full season? Works without shifting? Works without trapping debris somewhere you can't see? Those are the real questions. Because at its best, the cheap insert is not a miracle. It is a simple layer that can make the system more forgiving. More margin before a clog, more margin before overflow, more margin before the downspout chokes, more margin before the whole system becomes your problem again. And that is the strongest, honest case for it. Not that it ends an industry, not that it beats physics, just that it may buy you time and reduce the mess. But this is also exactly where the maintenance-free promise usually breaks down. Because when these systems fail, they often fail quietly. That is the part the ads do not show you. Most of the time, failure does not look dramatic. The insert does not shoot off the roof like a movie prop. It does not send some huge obvious warning that says, hey, your gutter system is no longer working the way you think it is. Instead, the debris simply changes location. It can collect on top of the guard. It can gather around the edges. It can build up near the roof edge. It can start hanging around the downspout entrance. And the dangerous part is that the gutter now looks protected, so the homeowner stops checking it. That is the real trap. The word guard creates confidence. Maybe too much confidence. You look up, see the insert in place, and assume the problem is handled. But a guarded gutter can still be one storm away from overflow if debris mats on top clogs the entry points or starts redirecting water in a way you never notice from the ground. And that is what makes maintenance-free such a bad phrase. The problem is not just that it is technically wrong. The problem is that it encourages the exact mindset that leads to hidden failures. Because now you are not just maintaining less, you are maintaining blind. And that can actually be worse than having an open gutter you know you need to clean. Another issue is that product performance varies a lot more than the marketing suggests. People love universal claims. This one works, that one is trash. This style is the secret, that style is a scam. But the real world is messier than that. Performance depends on debris type, roof setup, rainfall, slope, gutter size, installation quality, and what happens over time, after weather starts doing what weather always does. That is why two homeowners can buy something that looks almost identical and have completely different experiences. One says it solved most of the problem, the other says it made things worse, and both may be telling the truth. Because context is doing more work than the product box admits. Then there is the part almost no cheap hack videos want to talk about at all. Sometimes the guard itself becomes part of the problem. Not always, but sometimes. Depending on the system and how it is installed, certain guards can affect roof edge details in ways people do not think about when they are staring at a low price tag on a shelf or scrolling through a product page at night. And even if you ignore the roof detail side of things, there is still a simpler version of the problem. A product can make a gutter look managed while still letting debris, overflow, or water redirection build up slowly over time. That is the danger of any product whose biggest selling point is, now you can forget about this. Because forgetting is exactly what you should not do. So the question becomes, if these inserts are not magic, when are they still worth buying? And that is where this topic gets useful again. Because there absolutely are situations where a cheap insert makes practical sense. The best case is usually a house with a fairly normal gutter problem, not an extreme one. Moderate leaf drop, no constant carpet of fine debris, no insane tree cover, no weird roof geometry, no history of every storm turning the gutters into a drainage experiment. In that kind of setup, a cheap insert can be a reasonable way to slow buildup and cut down on full cleanouts. Not erase maintenance, reduce it. That is a real benefit. It also makes more sense for people whose goal is realistic, not, I want to delete gutter maintenance from my life. More like, I want fewer clogs, less nasty cleanup, and fewer reasons to drag out a ladder. That goal actually matches what these products are best at. Where I would get a lot more cautious is the house dealing with heavy fine debris or nonstop exposure. If your roof sits under trees that are constantly dropping small material, or you are dealing with debris that mats, compacts, and hangs up easily, the odds of a cheap insert being some set-it-and-forget-it solution go down fast. That does not mean it cannot still help. It means the margin for disappointment gets bigger. I would also be much more cautious in wildfire-prone areas, because then this stops being just a drainage problem. Debris sitting in or around gutters becomes a fire problem too. And if a product simply changes where debris collects without actually keeping that edge area reliably clear, that is not a small detail anymore. That is a safety issue. Another group that should slow down is anyone planning roof work, re-roofing, or dealing with a roof system where edge details matter, because now the insert is not just a convenience add-on. It can interact with the roof assembly itself. And then there is maybe the biggest filter of all, your own habits. This is the one nobody wants to hear. If you are the kind of homeowner who will actually inspect the system now and then, notice overflow early, and deal with problems before they turn into damage, a cheap insert can be a useful upgrade. If you are buying it because you want permission to never look at your gutters again, that is probably the wrong reason to buy it. Because the public guidance on this topic keeps landing in the same place. Guards can reduce maintenance. They do not remove the need for inspection. That is the whole story in one sentence. And honestly, once you accept that, the buying decision gets much easier. Buy a cheap insert if you want to reduce maintenance on a manageable gutter setup. Be cautious if you have heavy debris, fine material, wildfire exposure, roof edge sensitivity, or a habit of ignoring things once they seem handled. And do not buy one because you think you are defeating physics for $4. Because the best case version of this product is not a miracle. It is a small, cheap improvement that can make a normal gutter system more forgiving. And for the right house, that can absolutely be worth it. But the wrong house, the wrong debris, or the wrong expectation can turn the exact same product into a very convincing way to hide a problem until it gets expensive. So here is the clean, honest verdict. The problem is real. Gutters matter. They move a lot of roof runoff away from the house, and when they stop doing that well, bad things can happen slowly and quietly. The pain is real too. Cleaning gutters is annoying, messy, and often involves a ladder, which is exactly why people are so eager to believe in a cheap, permanent fix. But the miracle promise is where the pitch falls apart. A cheap insert does not end gutter cleaning permanently. The strongest version of the truth is much less dramatic and much more useful. A cheap insert might reduce the frequency and severity of gutter cleaning if your house, debris, and expectations line up with reality. That is not as flashy, but it is honest. And in the long run, honesty is way more useful than clickbait. Because a lot of homeowner products are not completely fake. They are just oversold. The real skill is learning how to separate a product's actual benefit from the marketing wrapped around it. And if you do that here, the answer becomes pretty simple. This is not a permanent fix. It is not automatically a scam either. It is a limited tool. In the right setup, it can work pretty well. In the wrong setup, it can disappoint you badly. And in a weird way, that makes the truth better than the ad. Because now you know what you are actually buying, not freedom from gutters, just a smaller, more manageable gutter problem. So now I want to hear from you. Have you tried gutter guards, foam inserts, mesh covers, or any other cheap gutter hack? Did it actually reduce cleaning? Or did it just move the problem somewhere harder to see? And what is the worst gutter debris you've dealt with? Pine needles, seed pods, roof grit, wet leaves. Because that is the stuff that really decides whether these products help or fail.